For those of you that have been following this channel for a while, I don't think it's a secret that I'm a big fan of the Hippopotamus defense. I played it exclusively as both white and black to reach the National Master title. I beat an International Master with the Hippo in this past year, but I actually played against 2 IMs. And the second IM game we are about to go over now. Okay, now, a lot of you guys might be wondering, okay, wait, why didn't you go over this game sooner, right? I mean, I was going over losses, wins, draws, all that kind of stuff. The reason is because it was one of the most intense games I've ever played in my life. I mean, the amount of hours that went into this, we were one of the last games in the entire tournament. It was a pretty big tournament. And in all, I mean, gosh, one of the craziest end games I've ever reached. I mean, most end games, when you get there and you've really studied the theory, most end games, you kind of know what's happening. I mean, this end game was just off the charts in terms of trying to calculate everything, figure everything out. Yeah, I mean, you know, we both played over 90% accuracy, but psychologically, I mean, this was a very up and down, back and forth battle. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you don't play the Hippo, that's totally okay. I think there's a lot of lessons in this game that can be applied to your chess as well. Okay. But before we get into the game, though, I do want to mention that I'm giving a 30% discount to both my courses, right? So I have courses on Gumroad, which is where I sell my online courses, on the Ponziani opening and on the Hippopotamus defense. If you want to invest in one of those courses, plug in the discount code Christmas2023 and you will get 30% off of either of those courses. Only good for December of 2023. Okay, so again, go there. And if you put in the discount code Christmas 2023 before we hit 2024, you will get 30% off of one of the courses or both if you decide to invest in both. Okay, but let's go over this game. So I'm going up here against International Master Jack Peters in the final round of this tournament. We have this move of G3, D5. I fianchetto my bishop pretty quickly. I play D3, E3, right? I mean, I like prioritizing kingside development. I tuck my knight. Here I play H3. I didn't need to play H3 this fast. I could have played B3. And in a lot of ways, I mean, I've talked about this on the channel. I talk about it a ton in my course as well. I think there's certain move orders for the Hippo that are better than others. But there's also moments where it's like A and B or B and A, right? And it doesn't really matter which one you play first. So H3 here, I didn't need to play it quite yet, but I did. And after Queen G7, I play B3. Okay. Here, black plays bishop d6, and I fianchetto my second bishop. Now, I must say, playing against a 2-pawn center is, in my opinion, the easiest setup for a Hippo player to go up against. Okay, now that doesn't mean that you can't go up against a 3-pawn or a 4-pawn center. Again, things that I covered in my course, but a 2-pawn center is simply the easiest to go against. Okay, it offers the Hippo player the least resistance. Let's put it that way. Okay. That said, though, I'm going up against the International Master, and yeah, he's not going to make it easy. So we see this move of knight e7 and now knight g6. So black here transferring their knight over. This is kind of an idea by Daniel Naroditsky. He's talked about this, you know, when talking about how to play against the Hippo. When I see this move of knight g6, this automatically just stops me from playing g4. This is not an option now, okay? And it's not an option for a number of reasons. First off, black has so much pressure against that pawn. I'm not worried about a sack. I'm more worried about a move like h5 continuing to pile pressure on that pawn. But the reason I mentioned that with a move like knight g6, a move like g4 is eliminated is because black can now jump into this hole, right? A hole is a square that we cannot defend / attack with the pawn for the rest of this game. And unless we have a capture here, I mean, this is a very nice outpost for this knight. Right, attacking our bishop. I mean, if we play rook g1 or something, black's going to continue going crazy on the king side. So when we're playing the Hippo, we really do have to think about not just where our pieces are, but where our opponents are, right? The Hippo is one of those reading and reacting type systems where it's not timid, in my opinion, at all. I mean, a lot of my Hippo games actually result in very aggressive attacking chess, but it's all about getting your setup, right? After, you know, 8 to 10 moves, usually 10, getting that full thick-skinned Hippo. Once you do that, you assess your opponent, you assess their weaknesses, their piece placement, and you go from there, okay? In this situation, after knight g6, g4 is just not the answer. In fact, that only helps black continue to activate their pieces. So here, I finish things out with the move of a3, okay? Now notice, b4 is not off the table in this game. Right, there's no knight on b6 here ready to jump in, so b4 is an option. G4 on the other hand, black's kind of already ready to jump in, right? So I got to keep my pawns here and really keep these knights at bay, okay? Here we have the move of h6 from black, and I actually play this move of f4, okay? Striking here. I mean, this is a big moment in the game. I ended up going with the flank pawn move of f4, looking to put some pressure on this pawn, potentially filling my knight in right behind. And I do want to mention this trap, okay? There is a trap here that can happen all the time in the Hippo if your opponent doesn't know what they're doing. And that is if your opponent plays a move like knight h5. This occurs when your opponent has a bishop, right, and a queen in most cases, right, aimed towards one of your pawns, right? They have some kind of bishop and queen battery, and then they bring a knight to the edge, black here, trying to activate their pieces, trying to put a lot of pressure on this side of the board. It turns out we just have f5 here, and white is much better, okay? Especially from a practical standpoint when I say that. We play f5. Notice here we're forking these two pieces. And hey, if the knight wasn't here, okay, the bishop be trapped unless it took. So once the bishop does take, we play g4, and now we have a fork. Okay, in this case, black should play bishop e6. That's the, you know, the computer move here. But let's just say black keeps going crazy. Let's just say black keeps just wiping things out. In this position here, we're at even material. Black has 3 pawns. We have a piece. But we now have this move of bishop f3. Notice the Hippo naturally puts our knight here, stopping this check, and the rook stops this check. So no matter where this queen goes, unless you check us, which if you do, thanks for the queen, appreciate it. If you go anywhere else, we just snatch a piece off, and yeah, we're down 3 pawns, but we're up 2 minor pieces in return, so we're +3 total. I mean, absolutely crushing here, over +4 for white. Okay. When I did play this move f4. I was thinking quite a bit about this move of e takes. And, you know, my opponent here, Jack Peters, he was taking quite a bit of time on this move. I remember him taking a long time trying to figure out what to do. And I was thinking he might take on f4, and I'm assuming he was thinking about that. In this case, though, I would capture back with the knight, okay? You know, we have a lot of support there for that knight if we see a move like castling queenside. Queen f3 is actually a pretty good move here. Just, you know, getting your queen involved. We have a very active dark squared bishop. If you touch this guy, I mean, that's just game over. And yeah, I mean, the queen is pretty untouchable at the moment. This also gives us options of castling queenside. And if you play a move like, you know, knight e5, trying to attack our queen, there's a lot of stuff we can do, including the move queen f2, right? There's nothing wrong with this. Queen f2, the queen truly is untouchable in the sense that it can't get attacked, or at least, you know, without black just giving up a piece. So yeah, I mean, castling queenside on the way, white here with a slight edge, okay? But after f4 in the game, we have the move of castling queenside. My opponent here really making this a dynamic game from the start, and I continue with knight f3. Now here after e takes, which is what happened in the game, I didn't take with the knight. Now some of you guys might be wondering, wait, earlier you said take with the knight, now you're not. The reason I didn't take with the knight here, even though I really wanted to, is because my king's not castled and black could drop a rook here right away. Now notice in the previous position, black's king was here. But now that they've castled, if I take with the knight, this rook comes right here, and this pawn's a huge target, and my king's not even castled yet. Okay, let's say we play a move like castling kingside, getting our king the heck out of there. Well, guess what? We have 2 defenders on that pawn on h3. Black has 2 attackers. What do? Well, they remove a defender, right? And then they just win a pawn, and I have nothing good to show for that, right? I mean, it's just losing for white. This is not good. Okay, if I play a move like queen d2, black takes. Notice if I take with the e pawn, which by the way I would love to do usually, well, I can't, because anywhere this bishop moves, including taking that, it's going to be check, right? Because if this pawn's not there, the rook's aimed directly at the king. And if I take with the g pawn, a move like queen e7, and I mean, this is just a great maneuver for black, prevents us from castling queenside because of this battery ram against the pawn. And the second this bishop moves, I mean, talk about pressure on that e3 pawn, okay? A move like castling kingside, this is not a good idea because black's pieces are naturally aimed towards the king side of the board. A move like rook g8, g5 is on the way, putting pressure. Again, both of these bishops are very active in this position. The queen as well could get involved. The knight could start maneuvering in. I mean, black's just going to break this game open. How does this help white? It doesn't, right? They got a rook aimed directly towards our king, pieces aimed towards our king side, and white here is a little bit behind in terms of attacking chances, right? I mean, we're just, our pawns are a little bit stuck. We can't play there. We can't play there. We're just behind. Case closed. Okay, so it's because knight f3, right? And after takes, I didn't take with the knight because I was worried about this pawn becoming a huge target. So in this case, what do? I just take with the e-pawn, right? I go, look, I don't want this pawn to be a huge target. I'm just going to take, okay? And now we have the move c6. I think this surprised me a little bit, but, it makes some sense because, if a move like knight e5, it can be a little bit hard for black to navigate that, especially with the queen being attacked. But now after c6, if I play knight e5, the queen just goes, okay, I'll just step to the side and all is well, right? So in this case, I actually played the move of bishop e5. My idea here is that, black has a lot of pressure on this side of the board, right? Black has played this very well. Black's not winning by any means, but black does have a lot of pressure on that side of the board. And okay, at the moment, I'm okay, right? None of these pawns have to move, but the second one of these pawns move or get a little bit tainted or traded off, the floodgates are going to open against my king side. So I was pretty worried about, an h5, h4 idea just starting to break things open again. So much pressure here aimed towards the king side of the board. So I go, you know what? You have a piece that's kind of attacking my dark squared pawns. I'm just going to offer a trade. I'm going to offer a trade, right? And if you want to run away, that's fine with me. My bishop's going to be pretty active there. But instead we have this move of knight e8, okay? Defending that bishop. I just continue developing here, making my king here can go to g1 or c1. Notice how hard it is, just generally speaking in the Hippo, for your opponent to figure out where the heck your king is going to go. In most openings, we want to castle by move 10. The Hippo is way different. The Hippo breaks a ton of opening rules, and this is one of them. Oftentimes in the Hippo, we don't want to castle fast. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we can. But I think from a practical standpoint, it's going to be hard for black to figure out where do they attack, because my king could be here or here. That's a big range of difference in just one move, right? So, okay, I have a lot of flexibility here in terms of where I want to put my king. Black here plays the move of f6, and okay, I go, okay, fine, we'll trade. And after knight takes d6, I play the move g4. I think this was a little bit ambitious, in all honesty. I think slightly better here would have just been a move like knight ed4, just improving one of my minor pieces. I can always castle queenside. I'm attacking this bishop, and if black wants to save their bishop, okay, I can castle now, because there's no battery ram against that pawn, right? I just plugged in a couple human moves that I think people could play, kicking that knight back, bishop there. If that happens, okay, we'll play king h2, right? Very common idea in the Hippo, just defending that h3 pawn. And now we got to ask ourselves a question: which side of the board do we want to pour our energy into? Which side of the board do we want to open up? Okay, let's cut the board in half, right? We cut the board in half. Okay, with king side and queen side. And the very obvious thing is that these kings are on opposite sides of the board. Okay, now, generally speaking, if kings are on the same side of the board, chess games tend to be a little bit more calm, because there's hesitancy for either side to just throw everything they have. Because guess what? If let's just say I'm a safe king right now, and I'm trying to attack you and we're on the same side of the board, the more I throw my pawns at you, guess what? I become weak as well, right? But in this case, since kings are on the opposite side of the board, black is going to go crazy, try to go crazy breaking open our side. We as well need to go after black's position right now. So what my recommendation would be is a move like b4, right? Notice, if black takes, we take back. Our rook's very active. And by distracting this pawn, by making it capture, later on we can throw a knight back into that very strong d4 square. Okay? If a move like b6, how can we break this game open? We could take, but I actually think that a4 and a5 is better. Just talk about pressure here. Let's say black plays a move like knight f5, trying to get more pieces over there. Okay, we take. Okay, we take. Now we got two great open files. For rooks to jump into. In fact, in this case, we can just throw a rook all the way down to the end of the board, bring it right back. Rook b1 check on the way, and this is over a +5 advantage for white. Okay. And going back, let's say black goes, you know what? I don't want to defend this pawn. I don't want to take and let your rook just get super active. I want to keep these files closed. c4 is actually a pretty good move compared to the last two we just looked at. But what did you just give up? On top of, I mean, just pushing a pawn right in front of your king. Well, you gave up the square of d4. We throw a knight in. I mean, that's just an active piece. And that's what chess is all about, right? Continuing to activate your pieces and improve them. Okay. So yeah, all that to say, I think after knight takes, I play g4. We'll get into why I played this, but I think, I moved like knight e d4. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just a solid improving move. And if black wants to kick my knight around at some point, it actually weakens their position more than it helps it. But okay, I play this move g4. Bishop f7 is played. And I castle queenside, okay? I castle queenside. My pawns are very far advanced on the king side of the board, so I go, you know what? I'm just going to castle this way. We have a move like rook h e8 played, and I match that energy on the e-file. You want to fight for the e-file? Okay, I'll do the same thing. It's the only open file on the board right now. Knight b5 is played. This move surprised me a little bit, right? It definitely did. I'm like, okay, right? I can just play a4. But now the knight jumps back to c7, and you're about to see a very interesting maneuver idea from black. But first off, I play h4. Why does h4 work? Why does that not drop the pawn? Well, I guess it technically does, but then I have bishop h3. The queen is pinned to the king. Okay, that's it, right? I mean, thanks for your queen. We appreciate it. So, okay, my opponent here, Jack Peters, goes with the move of king b8. Now, all of a sudden, this is a move that I got to start thinking about. So I play the move of h5. Right, I kick this knight back, and then I play f5 here. My idea is to freeze the king side. Okay, black has had so much pressure on that side of the board. I'm just like, look, I'm going to take as much space as I can, and I'm going to freeze things up. And I actually have pretty good control over the dark squares at the moment, okay, that are kind of filling around those light squared pawns. Notice here, both sides are frozen, right? If I play g5, black says, thanks so much, we appreciate it. And if black pushes their pawn, same thing, right? All four of these are frozen. And at any point, if you decide to push this guy, I mean, we just take back en passant. I mean, attacking the bishop. I mean, tons of pressure here. White is simply crushing this game. So after f5, here Jack Peters goes with the move of c5. And when I saw this move, I was absolutely terrified, in all honesty, of the following maneuver. Now, I'm just going to have white's king go back and forth, okay? And by the way, if you're trying to think through how to think through a plan, how to think through maneuvering, just think for a second. What if my opponent just moved their king back and forth? Right? Or if you're trying to figure out the opponent's plan or how they can improve their pieces, what if my opponent just moved their king back and forth? How can I continue improving my pieces, right? And it's not going to happen unless they're truly they have no option and they're stuck there. But it's always good to think about, okay, what's some potential outpost for my pieces? It turns out if white just plays passively here, I play the move d4, but if white just plays passively and plays a move like king b1, black plays d4. And notice now how either of these knights can fill in and start filling in gaps, right? Black could throw a knight in, throw a knight into e3, threaten my bishop. This knight as well could jump in and support this guy and get busy. This knight is an absolute monster, and I cannot even fight against it at the moment. Okay, so after that move of c5, d4 did not look fun to me. It didn't seem like after d4 I had any way of stopping one of these knights from just getting busy and jumping in, let alone both. And yeah, I play this move of d4, right? So, okay, black wants to play d4 and get this knight in. I play d4. Notice now how these knights are trapped. But black goes, okay, I'm going to push this pawn, right? And after king b2, just kind of strengthening my queen side a little bit, tightening it up a little bit. Black goes, okay, you played d4, you took away my maneuver. Okay, let's switch it up. Let's play knight c8 and try to get into the square of e4. Because the second I played d4, I stopped that idea, but I did weaken e4 a little bit, okay? So it's all about, when you're thinking about outposts, it really comes down to pawns. Pawns are the fence line of chess. And yeah, I mean, those moves, those pawn moves, they might seem small, they might seem silly, they might seem like they don't matter, but they do. So here, I mean, in this case, the computer Stockfish recommends knight c3. I'm sure I thought about this a little bit, but yeah, I mean, knight c3 does cover e4. It felt a little bit passive to me, and in all honesty, I think I was a little bit worried about queen d6. Queen d6, just a quiet little move, activating the queen a ton. So I go, you know what, I'm going to play queen f4 so that if queen d6 is played, I can trade off. Okay, I'd rather have no queens on the board than them have a great queen and my queen just be sitting there wondering what's happening. somehow when I played this, I missed that black has rook e4. And when he played this, I had that quick moment of like, oh my gosh, am I losing? Right? This doesn't look good. Turns out white's okay here. Okay, I'm still okay. I play queen g3. Black here plays queen d6. I don't think they needed to do that. I think, you know, the IM here had a pretty solid position with good activity. It's not -1 or anything like that, but I don't think trading here was the way to go. I think black needs to keep adding more and more pressure. But okay, I trade off. And at this point, there's one move here that gives me an even evaluation, and that is the move of knight e5. Okay, now, in almost every single circumstance in chess, it's much better to have two minor pieces than a rook and a pawn. And it's not even close. Okay. Now, a rook and a pawn, 5 + 1 is 6. Two minor pieces, 3 + 3 is 6. So technically it should be even, but two minor pieces in so many positions just do way more than a rook and a pawn can. And that's just the truth. Okay. Now in this position, I'm not saying that white's better, right? But I am saying it's practically dead even. And the reason it's dead even is because white gets some kind of compensation and inequality for it. I'll show you what I mean by that. But okay, I play knight e5. We'll go over takes, which is what happened in the game. Just to let you guys know, I was pretty concerned about rook e3. But after the game, Jack Peters kind of walked me through why he didn't think that was that great for black. And it turns out it's just dead even. Okay, I take this bishop off the board. And here I can play a move like knight f4. Now, if black starts getting busy against this pawn, which is what I was worried about, this is kind of a pivotal moment in a lot of endgames. Okay, and in endgames in particular, okay, it's very interesting because if we just hold on for dear life, we're usually going to lose. And that applies to endgames, okay? So this is more just general, okay? This isn't like specific positions, but generally speaking, in the endgame, especially rook endgames, if one of your pawns is attacked and you just use your rook, you use your knight, you use all your pieces to just hang on for dear life, there's times that can work. But in most cases, your opponent is just going to keep adding more and more and more and more and more and more pressure. And you're going to add more and more and more and more and more defense. And your position is just going to get worse and worse. It's going to get just kind of hard to look at. And eventually your opponent's going to win the two pawns anyways. Okay. Not in every situation, but in a lot of instances. So what I would say is, in a position like this, when black is attacking your pawn, look, we can play a move like bishop h3. We can hang on for dear life and keep hanging and keep hanging and keep just trying to survive. But eventually black is going to win this game if we play too passively. So what I would say here, black makes a threat. Let's get busy too. Let's make a threat as well. Let's attack that knight, right? If the knight moves to d6 or something, thanks for the pawn, right? If black takes on g4, again, we're not going to, play all, okay, let's defend the knight. Let's take their knight, right? They take our knight, let's take their pawn. Okay. Here, if they play a move like c takes b3, we could actually play c3 there. I kind of like that idea. Okay, the whole idea there is that we're defending that pawn, and we can take this pawn whenever we want, and rook g6 is an idea as well. Okay. And going back, let's say, black here just takes the pawn right off the board, very playable move. Okay, we're down a pawn, but now we continue attacking targets, right? We're down a pawn, but we are threatening both of these guys. How is black going to defend both? I don't think black can. Okay, so generally speaking, my recommendation for you guys is when you're in the end game, don't just think about how I can hold on to my pawns for dear life. Go, wait, is there an opportunity here for me to go, hey, take my pawn, but guess what? I'm going to take yours. And take my pawn, but I'm going to take another one, right? That generally is a better idea. Activity always matters in chess, but in the end game, it's absolutely vital, kings included. Okay, so we go back. 95. Now in the game, f takes is played. I take the rook. My minor piece falls off and I take the pawn. This all results in basically black has two minor pieces. I have a rook and a pawn. The reason that white is okay here is because I have a huge advantage in a pawn storm on the king side. I have 4 pawns, they have 2. I have a passed pawn that can push at some point. But this 4-on-2, right, especially from black's perspective, these pawns are, they're starting to make some noise. They're starting to get, closer to the edge of the board. And endgames are all about promotion, right? I guess you could say there's some exceptions, including queen endgames, but almost every single endgame, including queen endgames, whoever promotes first wins. Whoever can promote into a queen and keep that queen is the one that's going to win the game. So when you reach the end game, you're not trying to checkmate anymore. You're not trying to blah, blah, blah. You're trying to make a queen. That's what you're trying to do, right? So at this point in the game, I'm thinking, okay, I need to try to promote one of these pawns. Black here takes on b3. And I thought a long time here about what to do. I had a very hard time. I ended up taking with the king, which, by the way, turned out to not be the best idea. I could have taken with the c pawn, okay? But I was worried about knight f2. My rook's attacked, and okay, I don't want to lose the exchange, so I don't lose the exchange, but then I lose the exchange anyways with a fork. Okay, that didn't look very fun. The computer still likes that more than what I did, which is interesting. I think the computer just looks at these 4 pawns and kind of likes the calculations there. I also thought about the move of e6. Right, getting tempo on that bishop, right? I mean, you could take this pawn all you want. Guess what? I'm taking a minor piece. So if the bishop runs away, right, now we have another decision to make. If I play c takes, same situation, right? My rook's starting. The second I move my rook, guess what? There's a fork. I can't play here to stop the fork because that just hangs my rook outright. And if I take with the king, I started wondering, okay, e6, sure, I get closer to the edge of the board, but by making this bishop move back to e8, did I help black there? I mean, this doesn't look fun, right? Knight a6 is a move. Knight c5 is playable, but knight a6 is really strong. Rook d6 is the computer recommendation, just getting this rook active and just going after white here. These pawns are very weak at the end of the day. I mean, you just can't hang on to them, okay? And if you take with the c pawn, you're going to lose the exchange. So going all the way back, right? I ended up taking with the king. Okay. My idea here is if you want to check, I'll just go back, right? And now if you play knight f2 or whatever, there's no longer going to be any kind of fork, any kind of exchange lost, okay? Because my king is not in forking position. But I do see this move of knight d2 check followed by knight f3. Very precise play by Jack Peters. And yeah, in this case, I could have played rook d1, which technically would actually save me the most material because right now we're dead even. Black takes here. I'm only down 1 point. But now, right, I'm down 2 minor pieces for a rook. What does white have here that's so good? What kind of advantage does white have anywhere on the board? I don't think white has anything going for their position right now. So I end up, after the move of knight f3, actually playing knight d4. Instead of giving up a pawn, giving up the exchange. I would usually not recommend this, but in this kind of position, this is the way I went with it because I thought from a practical standpoint, at least I have an advantage of some sort. I'm down material, I'm down the whatever. At least I have something that I can try to fight back with. Okay, and that's important in chess. You always want to have some kind of advantage, right? Even if you know that you're not in the best position, even if you know you're in trouble, can you find some kind of advantage, some kind of inequality that is in your favor? In this case, I'm down material, but what's in my favor? The fact that I have 4 pawns on the king side and black only has 2. So at this point, I'm very intensely trying to push these pawns, okay? And this is kind of in the game. This is where desperation kicks in, right? This is when I'm calculating like crazy. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I'm trying to make a game out of this. And I was actually kind of surprised when plugging this into Stockfish. I'm actually okay. I mean, it's like minus 0.59. I thought it would be worse. I mean, now it just changed to minus 0.49. So, it's definitely close, going back and forth. But black here plays the move bishop e8, going for that pawn. Okay, and this is a big decision. Which pawn do I push here, right? Do I play g5? Right, g5 is actually a pretty good move, shockingly. The engine really likes this. I mean, just going, hey, you can take here, just take whatever you want, but I'm going crazy, okay? But, I think for most people, we're thinking, okay, do we play here or here? Okay, most of us aren't Stockfish. All of us aren't, right? So, okay, we got these 2 moves here. e6 would be a terrible mistake, both just objectively and practically. The reason for that is we got to ask ourselves, okay, this might look fun. It might look fun to be 2 squares away, but where is this pawn going to go? Black literally has 1, 2, and a 3rd piece already on e8. How is this pawn going to get there? That's my question. And on top of that, when you play this, f6 no longer has support. So if we play f6, black takes. If we play g5, black takes. If we push a pawn, black's going to take. That's not good. Okay. So instead, after the move bishop e8, I go, look, I can support that guy, so let me support him. f6. Okay. And after captures, I take back. In this case, right, f8 is much less defended than the square of e8. There's no bishop on f8, and there's no knight and rook, right, aimed right at it. And on top of that, we have a 3-on-1 now. Okay, I'm down material, but it's 3-on-1. Here, Jack Peters plays bishop d7, going for this pawn. And out of desperation, I play g5. This actually turns out to be the only move that gives white a fighting chance. In fact, it's just dead even here. I play g5. Black captures back. I'm down 3 points in material. But after h6, it's very difficult for black to stop both of these. Okay. This is when things got crazy, right, around this area. g5, h6, both of us spent a ton of time on the clock. We're trying to figure out what to do. Here, Jack Peters goes with move knight e8, which is one of the two moves that gives black an even game. Any other move, white has the advantage despite being down material, which, by the way, goes against my saying of, hey, in almost every situation, if we're up material and we're not about to get checkmated, we're winning. Well, this is the exception. This is that rare exception. Black here is in trouble because of these pawns, okay, if they don't play this right. But knight e8 was the correct move. How could have black went wrong here? Well, a move like rook f8, it might look like this pawn's in trouble, but we play h7, and guess what? You can't even take it because we make a queen. If you want to attack this pawn, okay, we push this pawn. You can't take this guy because we're about to make a queen. And if you just make some kind of move here, rook f1, we're supporting this pawn, right? Trying to make it advance. If black stops this, we throw a rook into f6 and swing it right over to g6, trying to make this happen. And again, if you want to take the pawn, do it. We're going to make a queen, right? And if we can fill this rook in here and help that queen get there, that pawn get there safely and turn into a queen, we're just crushing, okay? Going back to the move of h6, same thing. I just want to mention if rook h8, I mean, we just play f7, right? You can't take this guy because of that. Even if we move again and we play h7, guess what? You still can't take because of f8. And we have great control over both of these squares with our knight, pawn, and rook. Okay. But all right, I play the move h6. Knight e8 is played. And now, after the game, Jack Peters and I were, kind of talking through this. In fact, there were actually a lot of players, probably 10 players or so, all pretty highly rated, actually. A lot of high-rated players. We were going over this game, trying to figure out what the heck is happening here. Jack Peters thought I was winning after this move of rook f1. Okay, now in all honesty, I just missed this. I didn't even really give it much thought. But it's a good idea. Now, that said, it's not winning. This is dead even, but it is the best move for white. Okay, I played the move of f7. The issue with this is that black kind of just brings their knight in, and the rook as well starts to support these squares, right? Whereas if I play the move of rook to f1, there's no easy way for this knight to get in. You can't play here because we take. You can't take this pawn because, well, I mean, I guess you could, but we just take back with the rook, and we're still down material, but this pawn's still pretty close to promoting, which is what the endgame's all about. And if you play a move like knight d6, we push, right? We're threatening to promote. If you stop that, we play h7, right? We're very close here on this side of the board. Black can still mess us up. I mean, a move like knight takes f7, we just take with the rook, right? You can't take because we make a queen. And yeah, I mean, we're just winning this. Even if you play rook d8, I mean, we just take this bishop off. We just keep taking stuff, and we're going to end up winning this. So yeah, it's definitely a hard position, right, for black to have to deal with this. Okay, but let's just go back for a second. Okay, so we have this move. Okay, we have this move of f7 that was played, but if I play instead the move of rook f1, right, and then f7 and h7, you can't even take, right, because we just take back with the rook. Now, let's say black here plays a move like a5. This is actually a solid move for black. What do we do in that case? We make a queen. We make a queen again. We just keep grabbing queens and putting it back on. Black keeps taking them. And it turns out that this position is dead even. If you plug it into Stockfish, this is the line it gives. Attacking the pawn, check. Black takes a pawn. We fork. We start trading. The king advances. We come over. dead even. Stockfish doesn't give an advantage to either side here. Just dead even. Okay. A lot of ways to draw this. So yeah, going back to knight e8, I think this is a better move because it kind of makes the defense for black a little bit more awkward. Yeah, black has to play pretty precisely there to hang on. That being said, I played f7. Okay, black here plays knight f8, knight f6, and as I've showed here, much easier for black to start defending squares now. But white's still okay. I play the move of knight e6. Okay. Notice here, rook c8 check would not help black at all. This actually helps my king go forward. Not all checks are good, okay? I mean, I can't tell you how many times working with kids, right, at elementary schools, teaching them how to play chess, they think when they get a check, they're winning. And it makes sense, right? You're learning how to play chess. There's check, and it's pretty close to checkmate in a sense, right? So you think, check, I'm winning. Okay, black here again goes check. I'm winning. Guess what? You're just helping our king get more active. That's all you're doing. We're actually threatening to make a queen now, and if you stop that, we play here, and you can't take because we make a queen, and you know, if you go back, we play h7, and you know, it's just, I mean, white's just trampling black in this case. Okay, so knight e6 is played. Checks don't help black here. They just actually help our king get into the action as well. So instead, we have the move of bishop takes e6. I capture back with the rook. Okay. Now, I'm attacking this knight. We have knight h7. Right, black here is defending both of these squares pretty well now, but I play rook g6. Okay. Now here it turns out rook f8 is the only move that gives black the advantage, and it's a very specific line, crazy line actually. Rook f8 is the move here that gives black the edge. Okay, about -1. Here I got to play rook g7, attack that knight. Right. Notice here, I mean, if you play rook h8, again, I take that knight, you can't take back because I promote. So the knight has to move. You got to play knight f6. I play h7. Here again, there's only one move that gives black the advantage. That's king c8. After king d4, there's only one move, king d8. After king e5, there's only one move, king e7. Very precise play for black to get a one game here. Okay. Now let's go back for a second. Why is this so important? Why not just a move like king c7 or king d7? The moment you bring your king here, I can simply promote. And now when I promote again, I have check. And that's what matters. I get tempo. And I have a queen. And you're in check. You got to block check or run away. Then I'm winning. Right? But when you play king c8, and I play this, and you take, and I promote, there's no check. Right? Right, that's what matters. So here black just goes, oh, thanks for the queen. Appreciate it. After I've been saying that a lot this video. But okay, we continue. h7, okay, continuing to advance. And again, going back to this main line. Now after king e7, you could even make the argument, okay, right, we make the queen, we throw in a check, but now the king can take. In fact, that's the only move that black has there. So anyways, very precise play that black would have to go with there, you know, with rook f8. But instead we have the move king c8 first. In that case, I play rook g7. The knight drops back. I push. I'm threatening to promote. Black here sacks. I take back. Rook f8. I start attacking this pawn. Bring the king in. I take this guy. Black takes on f7. I'm up, I'm down a pawn at the moment by throwing a check, right? And here I offer to draw, and I am Jack Peters accepted, because if you bring the king here, I take the pawn. If you bring the king here, I mean, I can give a check and give a check and give a check. I could advance a pawn. If you want to check me, that's fine. At the end of the day here, we have rook on rook, 2 pawns each. There's no passed pawns. They're all right here. This is just a dead draw. Okay. Crazy game. So yeah, I mean, the Hippopotamus defense in this past year, it helped me get a 1.5 out of 2 against IM players. Yeah, this is a crazy one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Just some key takeaways right at the end. General things. In the end game, you got to play aggressive. You got to play active. Okay. You got to play active. I would also say with kings on opposite sides of the board, remember, you got to break their side of the board open and keep your side of the board closed. More advanced concepts. Anytime you move your pawn, you got to be aware of what it's weakening. Okay. You got to be aware of what is weakening. Like this move d4 in the game, right? d4. I do not regret playing d4, because I think d4 and facing this is just absolutely not fun at all, okay? I mean, D4 and just getting a knight here and just kind of picking wherever the heck you want to go. Specifically, you know, all these guys. So D4 here, okay, that stops black from pushing, but what did it weaken? It weakened this. Anytime you move a pawn in chess, at least one square, in fact, technically 2 squares get weakened, okay? You know, unless you're a sideline pawn. So this weakens this, and black pretty soon starts going after that square, right? So chess is a lot about where the pawns move, what weaknesses come out because of it, and how you can maneuver your pieces to do so. Thanks for watching today's video. If you liked it, make sure to subscribe to this channel. And on top of that, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the chess content coming your way. I wanted to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters for the month of December in 2023. And yeah, I mean, if you're interested in becoming a patron, we have a link down below, in which case you will see all of the benefits that you gain by becoming a member. I hope to see you join the family. All that said, I'll see you on the next one.